There it is, the moment that Masai Ujiri is introduced as the new team president and alternate governor for the Dallas Mavericks, taking over as the primary basketball decision maker. It's a job title that he has had before in his career. When he was with the Toronto Mavericks, he wasn't
Toronto
officially
Raptors.
did I say Toronto Mavericks? Well, the Toronto Raptors, yes,
only
thank
hope
you.
at this point.
They're not moving the team to Toronto.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm saying the success that he had in Toronto. Do not misread me on that. We've taken back the reins and completely lost them. We're hoping there's
yes. My point was, with the Raptors, with the Raptors, he had a similar job title and had a general manager under him as well that worked in concert with him. Sorry for the slip of the tongue there. So we'll see if he decides to operate in a similar fashion, if he decides to hire somebody to serve, quote-unquote, as general manager that will be underneath him. It feels perhaps similar to the way that the Rangers have things right now, where Chris Young doesn't any longer have the GM title anymore. That's Rob Fenstermaker, if I'm remembering his last name correctly. But it's still CY that is the one that's making the decisions by and large from a baseball standpoint. It's going to be Masai Ujiri that is making the basketball decisions. And there was a lot to take out of what he said over the course of about 40 minutes worth of a press conference relative to Jason Kidd, relative to Kyrie Irving, relative to moving on from Luka Doncic and planting Cooper Flagg and moving forward with him. There's a ton to dissect about what he just said. What stuck out to you most over the course of the last 40 minutes?
Honestly, it was kind of the perfect introduction. His kid is crying, walks up to the stage, and he calms everything down. It literally, as he said, I want to bring calm. But it literally felt like in that moment, for a franchise that has desperately needed it now for about going on 2 years, but it feels like an eternity.
Yeah.
The adult is in the room. That is the one thing that kept popping into my mind. This is someone that can communicate well. He has obviously plenty of basketball experience. Anyone that questions his basketball acumen at this point, you've got a lot to try and. That's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
But his mannerisms, the turns of phrases that he used. I mean, specifically the King metaphor was fantastic.
Yes.
And that is ultimately where we're talking about a push-pull relationship between him and Dumont. Ultimately, all of this is about helping the Mavericks and Cooper Flagg reach their potential. And that was the overlying theme throughout this entire press conference.
The biggest thing that I took away from what he had to say was the kings come, kings go. A king was here, but he went. Now we've got a little prince that we're going to turn into a king. That's the money soundbite from the entire day, without a question. However, what I was also impressed by was the way in which he was deferential and respectful of those that have come before him. Even though he has carte blanche in this city to, if he wanted to come in here
and do a stand-up routine.
Yes, he could have gone flamethrower to the record of Nico Harrison and said, I have no idea what the heck he was doing. It was a ridiculous decision. He could have gone chapter and verse on that, and people would have been like, all right, he didn't need to.
Right.
It's the punch that Ali didn't take on Frazier. There's no need. There is no need. We know that time has come and gone. Everybody knows the mistake was made, and instead he was respectful and deferential to what has come before him, said we don't need to go down that path, did acknowledge, hey, Luka Doncic is a Hall of Famer, and that by itself was probably enough of a punch in this regard. Yes, that is the indictment. But he didn't go there because he didn't need to, and turned it into, we're going to press this thing forward.
Yes.
This is, you said it very early on in the process as we were watching this press conference, the adult is in the room.
Yeah.
And that is something that has been so needed, so desperately needed for this organization. He's going to come in and project that calm and move the ship forward. They have been stuck in neutral for 15 months, in part because nobody really did trust Nico after the trade, and it took them until November to finally decide to move on from him, but finally they decided to move on from him, and then you're stuck in neutral because you don't know who's actually going to be the decision maker going forward as Michael Finley and Matt Riccardi make their way through the year. Now they have the ability to move forward. We are going to dive way, way more into this tomorrow on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show at noon, so please join us for that. But just to make one more point, and we can have one more discussion here briefly, because the comments that he made relative to Kyrie Irving and Jason Kidd were illustrative of, of what he feels about those two people. He was asked about Kyrie Irving after he was asked about Jason Kidd. His answer to the question about Jason Kidd's future and whether or not he feels like Jason Kidd is the coach to lead this team going forward was certainly not a no, but also was definitely not a yes. It was not an endorsement of Jason Kidd in any way, shape, or form. It was a, hey, I need to get in here. I need to get a feel for what this organization is, how everything operates. I need to evaluate this thing from top to bottom. And then 5 minutes later, he's asked about Kyrie Irving and the dreams that they have of seeing him on the same court with Cooper Flagg. And he's like, man, I dream like you dream. Like, I'd love to, had no problem jumping in with both feet saying, yes, I want Kyrie Irving to be here. And even though he didn't say it necessarily in exactly those words, that was definitely the intonation was, yeah, I also want to see Cooper Flagg and Kyrie Irving on the floor together. At least hinting at, he doesn't want to trade him for draft capital, which has been suggested as a possible avenue for this team. Those two answers placed side by side is very telling.
But more so to that, because, again, this is a players' league as much as we want to talk about the execs and the head coaches in charge. A lot of this boils down to respect. And what you saw in this is a widely respected figure in the NBA, and respect is a mutual enterprise. And you could see throughout every answer and how he parsed his language and how he approached every response that he could give in a difficult situation. He handled it with grace. He handled it with class. This is about as close to a grand slam of a introductory press conference as you will ever see. And you understand exactly who this man is, what kind of ship he's going to run, what he expects from other people, and most importantly, why he is respected. All of that came through in spades. And, I mean, we kind of joked about it to some degree on whether you're more excited about Caleb Downs or Masai Ujiri coming to Dallas. Just after this press conference alone, I think it's a question worth having. And I think that is a huge, and it cannot be understated, a huge step forward for this franchise.
Yeah. Again, so much more to come. We will dive into this headlong tomorrow on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, 12 to 1, right back here on WFAA Plus, and we will fully evaluate what Masai Ujiri had to say and the ramifications of all of it. We hope you'll join us then.